Welcome. My name is Pedro Lomonaco, and the title of my presentation is Loading and Structural Response of Developed Shorelines Under Waves, Surge, and Tsunami Overland Flow Hazards. I would like to acknowledge the collaboration of my colleagues from Oregon State University, the U.S. Naval Academy, the University of Southern California, Notre Dame, Hawaii at Manoa, and Hanyang in Korea. Today, we will present the different steps taken during a large-scale experiment campaign performed in the winter and spring of 2019 at Oregon State University. These two images are representative of severe overland flow damage. One was produced by a hurricane, while the other was produced by a tsunami. It is interesting the similitudes of both events. Both shows a coastal community, over here, which has been affected by surge, wave, overland flow, and the impact of debris. You see the debris here, coastal community, and the shoreline. This study combines the research interests from the different universities involved, as seen here, which goes from the investigation of overland flow, the fusion and mixing of overland flow processes, debris, hydrodynamic conditions, experiments of storm surge, hurricane waves, and tsunami-like conditions, effect of parcel-lies developed coastal community, and determine the protective role of small-scale field mangrove trees, and the variation of hydrodynamics by structural loads of a semi-infinite breakwater, a continuous low-crested seawall, and a submerged offshore breakwater. The experiments were conducted in the Directional Way Basin at Hinsdale Wave Research Laboratory at Oregon State University. The basin is a multidirectional wave facility designed to study coastal and offshore nearshore processes. To represent overland flow, a model of acoustic community on a typical barrier island was designed as the one shown here. The red line represents the footprint of the basin at the scale 1/16 in this image. The model in the basin should reproduce a typical coastal community made of 100 buildings approximately, and a barrier island where overland flow is produced under storm surge or tsunami conditions. To accomplish this, the following sequence shows a model constructed in the basin. This is the empty basins. Here we see the multidirectional wave machine, and this is the instrumentation bridge. First, we place the split walls for the construction of the model. And this is the foreshore bathymetry. We install a foreshore bathymetry made of gravel and then capped with concrete. And this is what we call the testing section. This is a 10 by 10 sections where we will install the coastal community. Two breakwaters were installed here for absorbing the waves on both sides of the foreshore bathymetry. The pumps were installed behind these split walls, bringing water from one side to the other side of the basin, introducing recirculation flow, as you can see here. So the water is flowing with the pumps from here or around here, and then propagate over here, and then return through the coastal community here. Waves are still being generated by the wave machine, so we could have here waves and tsunamis on top of the current that is coming in this direction. This is the basic configuration where we have what we call undisturbed conditions, so no structures here, and this was tested, for example, to get the what we call the bare earth conditions, so purely hydrodynamics, and also for the debris conditions. Later on, 100 buildings were installed in the testing section. which each of them are instrumented. We will show you later what are the instrumented buildings. This is the basic reference configuration for testing. This would be the location where the mangrove trees were installed, protecting the coastal community. So protecting these buildings, which are also the same as which were instrumented. And later on, different type of structures were installed. This is an example of a semi-infinite breakwater or a non-overtopping breakwater that was protecting the coastal community. We tested different lengths. We were increasing the wall until we cover approximately 75% of these sections. And later on, we also tested a low-crested, a seawall, and a submerged breakwater that I'm not going to be showing for time constraints. This represents a sequence of images, selected images, where you can see the construction of the different model. So these are the split walls. This is the installation of the forged bathymetry and the testing section. With here you see the breakwaters. This is the finalized testing section where you see the forged bathymetry and the testing section. The breakwaters here. Installation of the offshore instrumentation. The system of pumps. 2 pumps were installed on each side of the bathymetry, and also in this case we are showing the installation of the coastal community. So here you see the dummy buildings, and here you see already the installation of the silver buildings. Here are the ones that are instrumented. This is the other side where you also see here the already installed the mangrove trees. Protecting the coastal community. And this is just an overview of one of the full experiments in the basin, where you see during one of the experiments. Different types of instruments were installed for assess the hydrodynamic conditions and also the structural response, as you can see here. And also we use different types of videos. One was a series of cameras were installed overhead to capture the different the evolution of the flow, also for the dissipation of the dye, and also the debris experimental tests. This is a footprint of the facility where you see here the offshore array of wave gauges, and the cluster of instruments you see here are acoustic gauges and wave gauges, and also ADVs that were hanging from or supported from the instrumentation bridge that was located in different places. This is what we call the location 0, and there was another location 1, 2, and 3. So we repeated different tests at different locations, so it was to increase the resolution of the measurements that we performed during the experiments. This is the design of the instrumented buildings. This is for the pressure gauges. This is for the multidirectional load cell. This is the supporting frame for the inline load cell, and this is how it looks. This same frame inside of the building. This is how it was installed. These are the inline load cells are located in this sequence, so we were seeing how the forces were changing as the wave propagate inland. The pressure gauges on both sides, one on this side and the other one on this side, and this is the multi-axial load cell that was installed in this location for measuring the forces in 3 dimensions. As mentioned before, the experimental design replicated the test program with several configurations to address the different research questions. So here you see the different experiments that were done with bare earth, experiments for debris, the array of the 100 coastal buildings, installation of mangrove trees, the partial wall or semi-infinite breakwater, the low-crested seawalls, the offshore breakwater, and also a system identification. These are the experiments that are to characterize the mechanical properties of the different buildings. A series of different experiments with currents, waves, and tsunami-like waves were reproduced in each and every of these configurations. So each and every of these configurations were tested on the different conditions, the wave conditions. The different conditions consisted in different water levels, varying from in front of the wave machine from 55 centimeters to 1.16 meters. Solitary waves with different heights, transient waves, which are defined by error function waves with different durations in generation, so the wavelength is different, and the wave height also changes based on that. Random waves generated with TMA and Pearson-Mascovitch spectra with different heights and periods, and also regular waves with different heights and a single period. And all of these experiments with different waves were performed with waves and with waves and currents, and also with currents alone. So all these experiments provided a series of experimental data and observations that could be summarized in this way, but there is currently an intensive post-processing of the information. This is an example of a time series of random waves that were executed during the experiments. But these are all just a series of different elements that were provided immediately from the experiments. And as a conclusion, well, we were able to construct a model that was representative of a coastal community, and it was designed and constructed in the basin at OSU. The coastal community was made of 100 identical buildings constructed in a horizontal coastal plain. The directional way basin was compartmentalized to allow the formation of surge and overland flow simultaneously of the generation of waves. Overall, we executed 471 tests with the different configurations and wave conditions. The conditions were repeated on the different configurations for comparison purposes with the different shapes and properties of the structures installed. The tests were executed with waves, current, and a combination of both, and the detailed measurements of the free surface, current velocities, and pressures were obtained that could be used for validation and calibration of CFD models and the generation of semi-empirical models. Thank you very much.